Doors will open up here on Market Street in about half an hour. That's going to be at 5:30. Access Outreach Supervisor Matthew Rogers tells me they're going to try to fit in as many people as they can within the fire code to keep them out of the elements this evening. I'm right outside the church where this shooting happened last night. Now, we are getting some more details today, but we're not necessarily getting that full picture. Sheriff Nathan Sickler saying he is releasing some details for general public knowledge, but anything farther than that is going to be released to a grand jury, and they are going to look at charges. Grace, the Oregon Community Foundation announced this morning that Options for Helping Residents of Ashland, or ORA, would be receiving Project Turnkey's first $4.2 million grant. Now, ORA plans to take that money and buy the Ashland Super 8 motel and everything inside. Anna, Oregon Health and Science University says the state has 2 to 3 weeks before we begin to see a surge in Omicron cases. With boosters taking about 2 weeks to take full effect, state officials agree this is the time to take action. Anna, haunted houses reign supreme in October, but you typically don't hear much about them any other time. However, the owners of Nightmares on the Rogue tell me they are spicing up this holiday season. I was actually able to speak with Dick Hyman a little bit earlier today, and I can tell you he is just as humble as he is generous. Now, him and his wife originally wanted to keep this donation anonymous, but they thought that by putting their own name on it, that it would inspire others in the community to give as well. Yeah, the city of Grants Pass is serving up some good news for downtown businesses. Parklets will be here at least through October. Vice President Kamala Harris is not only breaking barriers by becoming the first female vice president, she's also the first Black and Asian American vice president. I was here at this house as the search warrant was being carried out. Now, if you take a look behind me, you can actually see the house where the bomb tech from OSP actually told me most of these explosives were found. Valley Manor honored its over 100 veteran residents this morning. I was lucky enough to speak with one World War II veteran just 3 days shy of his 100th birthday.
I like to, on holidays, take it easy.
The Rogue Valley Manor honoring residents who served our country this Veterans Day, including Barden Finch, an almost 100-year-old World War II veteran.
No, I'll be 100 this Sunday.
Finch was a bugle sergeant in the infantry marching band before training as a pilot in the Army.
For the most part, I was a basic flight instructor, so I flew BT-13s.
With a digital flag proudly waving, the United States Marine Corps presented the flag in front of a room full of veterans.
Say, can you see?
Linda Day performed the Star-Spangled Banner before Medford City Councilor Kevin Stein briefly spoke about his time in the service.
Army, fellow Navy members, Marine Corps, Air Force, and on this day we thank everyone for their service.
He even displayed his own Navy uniform. One Manor resident shared she was in France on D-Day 77 years ago. She thanked all the veterans, especially the couple who, like Finch, fought with the Allies.
This is my first chance to say thank you in person. So very much thank you.
118 veteran residents stretching across several wars live at the manor. I asked Finch how we can best honor veterans on this day.
At any rate, I would say thank you for your service, sure.
3 days away from 100, and he's looking great. Finch says his daughter threw him 2 parties this past week to celebrate: a classic pizza party and a Zoom party for his family across the country. Although it's a little difficult for him to hear, he says he had a lot of fun. Saturday morning, a tsunami advisory went into effect along the Oregon coast.
So that obviously put us on alert.
North Bend says it activated its emergency operations center once it received the tsunami advisory.
And then we did have 3 hours or so to do good evaluations on just what actions we needed to take.
All the department heads, including the mayor, got together and determined no evacuations were needed. Fire Chief Jim Brown says it was great practice ahead of a future tsunami disaster.
It was an opportunity to really evaluate where we were at and be able to take care of our people the best way we could.
Chief Brown says all city leaders were able to identify parts of their emergency plan that needed at least some improvement, the main one being communication.
We realized right off getting our people into the Emergency Operations Center was a challenge. We ended up having to send the police department out to a couple of department heads' houses because they normally don't keep their phones on.
Luckily, the swells that hit the Oregon coast were small, and North Bend didn't have to perform any rescues. But advisories like this make for good practice ahead of a future, potentially more dangerous emergency. The man behind Dutch Bros and the Grants Pass Downs, Travis Boersma, has big plans to add an entertainment center in Josephine County. But Oregon tribes are asking for a state review of gambling practices before the entertainment center, called the Flying Lark, installs 250 historic horse racing, or HHR, machines.
The HHR machines that are available now are very different than the ones Portland put in. They are more like slot machines. They have the brands and titles of standard slot machines.
We reached out for comment from the Flying Lark. Michael Walters, the marketing director behind the operation, was unavailable for an interview. But this is how the business was described to us just a few weeks ago by the Flying Lark's president.
We're going to be the epicenter for horse racing in Oregon, so we will effectively move that from Portland down to Grants Pass, Medford area, so it'll change horse racing forever. In a letter sent Wednesday, 6 Native American tribes say it's been 25 years since the state's last gaming review, and technology has evolved dramatically since then.
The new HHR machines keep 6-7% of every dollar bet. They have the titles that you would expect. It's really advanced dramatically due to some new technologies.
The Oregon Racing Commission says these HHR machines aren't technically slot machines because they use parimutuel wagering, which means people bet in a pool rather than against the house. According to developers, they look like traditional games, but function as though you placed a wager at an off-track betting site on a horse race in the past.
There are distinctions between parimutuel and the number generators, which are what a slot machine, the math a slot machine works on.
It's not parimutuel betting because you're not really betting against the other players.
The tribes make a point in their letter to say they support economic development in rural Oregon, but in a study they commissioned, it found both the tribes and the Oregon Lottery would lose millions of dollars if the historic horse racing machines were installed at the Flying Lark.
$6 million of basically gross income, and the lottery would lose $13 million.
For now, the Oregon Racing Commission is reviewing the Grants Pass application to authorize HHR machines at the facility. The executive director says ultimately, the decision to approve or deny the application is up to the board.
Madison LeBurge brings us the story.
The Flying Lark might have to shut its doors before it even opens.
Well, it's heartbreaking.
Travis Boersma says over 200 people could lose their jobs in Grants Pass by February if the Oregon Racing Commission doesn't approve the Flying Lark's HHR application for 225 machines.
I'm just hoping for the best, and it is scary because I've been here for 2 years. Started out the horse racing.
HHR stands for Historic Horse Racing. These machines look and play like traditional video slot machines, but are slightly different due to the type of wagering. Boersma says in the last 3 years, he's never had any indication that Flying Lark's application wouldn't be approved.
We have met with tribes continuously. We've met with political figures continuously. We had House Bill 165 that went through the last legislative session, and tribes actually made an amendment to that bill. It went through, the governor signed off on it.
But in October, 6 Oregon tribes sent a letter asking state politicians to thoroughly review state-regulated gambling. Now, Boersma says the governor has a hand in delaying their application.
I don't know what the work is, but in formulating an opinion that has been requested by advisors to the governor is where it sits.
In December, TMB Racing filed a lawsuit against the Oregon Racing Commission asking for the ORC to make a decision. Ultimately, the ORC says it has to wait for an opinion from the Department of Justice. But that opinion will decide if the Flying Lark's application meets constitutional and other legal requirements.